Welcome to Urban Connections, a show about the urban environments and its impact on people's physical and mental health. I'm Ope and
I'm Lexus Morgan.
And we're your hosts this week. On today's show, we're interviewing Dr. Isabel Sperano. With more than 20 years of experience, Dr. Isabel Sperano has a PhD in Information Architecture for the design of digital experiences. She's the coordinator of the DXD Pathway in Designs at MacEwan University. Her research focuses on the design of digital products and services in large organizations. So let's welcome Dr. Sperano. Glad to have you here.
Hi, thank you.
So firstly, we wanted to get into it by kind of getting an idea of your work. I know that you spoke with Sheena about what you wanted to talk about, and I did some research on you, and you designed a game with it in like the biology department, which is pretty incredible. I saw like on your site when you were like on your bio, I noticed, I was like, that looks like a cell, and I'm like, I'm not good at biology, but I have a good idea. And then when I did the research, I was like, oh, this makes sense. And so it's published now, yes?
Yeah, it's published. It's on Steam right now, so anyone can use it. We are doing, it's mainly my partner Ross and GA who are working in actually looking at the effect of the game on learning for biology students. And we just won an award for the game, actually. Yeah.
I think that's super cool. Even like when I was doing the research, I found that you even partnered with, I forget his name, but he is a part of like the acting to help the students have an idea of how the users are going to use it, which is pretty much your whole entire premise with your research is how users will use it and how the usability makes sense, correct?
Yeah, exactly. So this is another project that I worked on a few years ago with Lee Rivenbark from theater, where when we design products, we try to take a human-centered lens, human-centered perspective to understand how people actually use the tools that we design or the games or the apps or the websites. So to do that, we usually do user tests, we do interviews, we do a bunch of things where we talk to actual users to make things user-friendly. However, sometimes it's difficult to have access to users. It takes a lot of time. And also, well, we don't have them all the time with us. So then I was thinking, could we kind of develop a technique to help designers still build empathy, even if they don't have the users right next to them? So then I partnered with Lee Rivenbark from theater, and then we showed students some acting techniques so they could try to behave like their users to see if it could help them to kind of build more empathy if they were trying to act like their users and think like them. So it doesn't replace talking to actual users, but it's kind of more as a complement.
Lovely. And so I want to know, like, with that, you've seen shifts, certainly, then I imagine.
Yeah, we've seen it working quite well when it was difficult to have access to some users. For example, in a class, I had a student who was working on developing a product for someone with Parkinson's disease. And then when the student was trying to act like the person who has Parkinson, it was, for the student, they were telling me that it was really eye-opening because they realized how the person was kind of stuck in their body, wanting to say things, but were not able to do it. So then it was really eye-opening. So that's one example that I remember. It's a few years ago, but yeah. So one example I remember of a student saying, oh yeah, it really helped me to understand actually how my users are feeling.
I wanted to ask, as the coordinator of the digital experience design offerings at MacEwan, what advice do you have for students who are interested in pursuing a career in the field?
Okay, that's a good question. Well, one thing that we did for digital experience design, or what mainly more well known as user experience design in the industry. This is a multidisciplinary field. So one thing that we did, me and my colleague, who's the chair of the design program, Robert Andruko, we decided to offer this program, and all of these courses will soon have 14 courses dedicated to digital experience design. So then now we have a major in the the design bachelor's degree, so it can be students can declare a major. However, we wanted to offer these courses to students that are not from design. Since UX, user experience, is a multidisciplinary field, we wanted to offer it to other students outside of university, outside of design, inside the university, to bring different perspective and kind of enrich the experience. So then digital experience design is actually offered as a minor for computer science and all arts and science students, communication students, and also Bachelor of Commerce. And also we were hearing when we went to conferences and we talked about our program, people were telling us, oh, well, I already have a degree. I already have a diploma. How do I take your courses? And we didn't really have an answer other than take the whole degree. So then we developed a post-diploma certificate. So these courses are also accessible now to anyone who has a diploma or a degree as a post-diploma certificate. So it's kind of a 1-year program. So yeah, I don't know, it's not an advice, but it's maybe something just to say that it's a very multidisciplinary field and everyone brings their own knowledge and their own lens to developing digital products. So working in a field that is very multidisciplinary, yeah, it's quite complex to design products that are really usable. So then we need input from many different fields.
That's really amazing what you have to say, because, I also wanted to do design, as a minor. But then I was like, oh, it's so complex and all. But then, looking at your work gives me like a better understanding on everything and how we should go. So here's another question we have for you today is, how can digital experience design be utilized to enhance urban wellness in a city like Edmonton, especially in areas such as mental health, public safety, and community engagement?
I think there's many ways. I can talk maybe about one thing that I've worked on with my student on this topic. So we have a class called Service Design, so it's the SN 445, and in this class we always partner. We have a community partner, and so far it's been always someone from the city, so a branch or a division in the city. And the first 2 years we were partnering with ETS, so on how to make the ETS safer and how to increase ridership or maintain ridership or enhance ridership. So then what students did in the course, they took the bus, they took the LRT a lot, they did interviews, they talked to various people at ETS to kind of understand the context and everything. There was a project where you could have a service where you would, let's say you take the bus really late and you're scared a little bit for your safety. Well, you could pair up your phone with one of your friends so they could see where you are. And so then if there's something happening, there was kind of a panic button where, so someone is aware of where you are, even if they're not with you. So, it was a project like this. Another team worked on the future LRT map, what will it look like, and the wayfinding, because with more buses and more LRT, more lines for the LRT, the wayfinding, so how do you navigate the system becomes even more important. So there was a project on this. And then to really be able to work on something that is actually useful and feasible and that kind of makes sense politically, we invited ETS and then the other community partner as well later for the other projects to come in once students kind of had an idea of the solutions they wanted to go with, but they weren't 100% sure. They were just kind of draft solution. So then the city came and they did co-design with them. So they did kind of sessions where students would just show them, draw on the board their ideas, and then they would discuss it. So then we had various members from ETS from different areas. So they would tell them, this we can't really do. Oh, this you should think about this instead of that, to kind of help students to build a product that was actually could be feasible.
How can design thinking be applied to create a more wellness promoting urban spaces?
I think it's to include as many stakeholders as possible. I think that's one way where design can be really strong at, just designers as facilitator. We call, so sometimes it's design, we have we do the craft, we create solutions, we create digital products, we create a bunch of printed products, but we can also be facilitators, so understanding everyone's context, giving them a voice, bringing them together to create a discussion, like I said, to do co-design. The students, they also had to do interviews with users, user tests, so really to give them a voice and then to present that to the client, to the community partner. So I think that's one way where design can be really, really strong.
I would certainly agree with that. The more you're invested in it, the bigger you feel like you're a part of something bigger, and so you want to see it succeed. And I certainly would agree with that. So I would like to know, what are some of the major challenges and opportunities of promoting urban wellness in the future?
Okay, so maybe I'll just tie it to the class that the project with the recreation branch, maybe. So one challenge that I was facing and we were facing with students is that when you work with a city, when you work with a larger organization that has a political aspect and that has multiple moving pieces and a budget, which for anyone has a budget, but then there's lots of pieces and it's quite complex. And it takes a lot of time for students and even, just for me to understand what are those pieces and how we can actually suggest solutions that would be feasible. So one way to do that is, yes, to talk to the community partner, to include them in the process and everything. But then I was talking to Dr. Brandon Boyd from political science about this. And then he was saying, well, you know what? I have a course in public policies where we do exactly what you're saying. So then that's something for the future that we're working on. Then in the winter, our plan is to work together, both our courses, to offer different lens to the same, to a similar challenge with the recreation branch. So that they could add the kind of political science lens to things and then present it to our students, and then my students present it to the political science course.
It really does go into and really just nails down how much of a multidisciplinary area this is, and people aren't aware of it, because I certainly wasn't. And so to hear this and how you have access to so many different areas within the city, but also within MacEwan, it's nice, it's interesting, but it's also, like you said, the point of it is very useful to people, and it does serve as a post-degree class to take. It would be very helpful, certainly.
Just curious to ask, are there any emerging areas of design research that you're particularly excited about or planning to explore in the future?
Yes, for sure. There are many. I could talk about two others that are, one that is really linked a lot to urban wellness is designing for sustainability and the environment. So this is something that I'm kind of starting to explore. It's a topic I've always been interested in, but again, it's very complex. We kind of need a very multidisciplinary teams to work on such products and projects that have lots of systemic issues. So yeah, it's something for me that I'm interested in more for the future. I'm also working, and I've started working last winter on using AI for education and digital experience design and user experience design. So we did a few experiments and explorations with UX students where they could use as many AI tools as they wanted, to see, how it went and what happened and, how they felt. And so this is kind of a little project that we started in the spring. We also did a workshop, me and one of my colleagues, Jacinthe Roberge from Laval University, to work on AI and ideation in design. Does it help ideation or not? Is it a barrier? Or how do we use it to enhance ideation if it's possible? So yeah, there's a lot more questions than answers for now, but it's still quite early stages, but many opportunities to do some exploration.
And our last question is, do you love what you do?
Yeah, I do. I love my field, but I also love teaching it and developing new projects, developing new programs, trying to, improve lives of citizens, and, working on a more what we call the service design perspective within digital experience design, working with the Research Institute. For me, it adds a lot of depth to what I do, and yeah, I love that. So when I heard about the institute, I was right away thinking, oh, this is somewhere I want to be.
Well, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, it was amazing speaking to you, hearing about everything you had to say, really interesting about design. So I wanted to ask, is there anything else you'd like to add?
Yeah, maybe just one thing. If you're curious about design, if you heard this and you realize, oh, design is it's not exactly what I thought it was. There's more things than I thought. You can always go to for digital experience design, it's macewan.ca/DXD, and then you'll see all the different programs that we're offering. So if it's something you're interested in.
So we want to thank you for your insights, and we appreciate you for taking the time to speak with us today.
Yes, thank you so much for inviting me.
I want to take some time now to discuss a project I found interesting, completed by one of Dr. Isabel Sperano's students, which aimed at tackling the problems with the seasonal parking bans in Edmonton. The student, Lauren Beatty, under Dr. Sperano's guidance, partnered with the City of Edmonton to identify and bridge the gaps in communication regarding these parking bans. The city had launched a notification service to alert residents 24 hours before parking bans, and Beatty found that very few people were aware of this service's existence. As a result, vehicles remained parked on the streets without timely information, causing difficulties with snow removal. Over several months, Beatty's research revealed some key issues: inconsistent scheduling between notifications and online maps, untimely messages, and a lack of clarity on which bans applied to arterial versus residential streets contributed to an ineffective system. With Dr. Sperano's help, Beatty came up with ways to personalize notifications based on user preferences and improve the system's timeliness. She also suggested enhancing the website navigation and developing social media campaigns to raise awareness for the service. I think this project is a great example of how Dr. Sperano has guided her students to think about real-world applications that design and digital experiences have for solving problems we face in complex urban environments.
Thanks for joining us on Urban Connections. This week's episode was produced by Stefano Farah, Zach Newen, Lane Golden, Yusuf Shatabu, Ope Olu, and Lexus Morgan. The show was edited by Stefano Farah. The show's supervising producer is Sheena Rossiter. Additional studio supervision by Sasha Stanovich. This episode was produced as part of the BCSC 302 online content production course in the fall 2024 semester. The course is part of the Bachelor of Communication Studies program in the Department of Communications at MacEwan University. This show is a collaboration between the Department of Communication and the Research Institute for Urban Wellness at MacEwan University. This show was edited and produced out of the MacEwan Media Production Studio. Our theme music is called Creativity by Kaylee Lambert. Logo design for this podcast is by Sasha Stanovich. And I'm Lexus Morgan. And
Ope Olu,
your hosts for this week's podcast. This podcast was recorded on Treaty 6 territory, the traditional and ancestral territory of the Cree, Dene, Blackfoot, Saulteaux, and Nakota Sioux. We acknowledge that this territory is the home to the Métis settlements and the Métis Nation of Alberta, Districts 9, 10, and 11 within the historical Northern Saskatchewan River Territory. Don't forget to subscribe to Urban Connections on the podcast app, and please leave us a review and rating. It really helps people find the show. Please join us again next time when we explore more urban connections.